There it is. Little pink plus sign is so unholy.
That ain't no etch-a-sketch. This is one doodle that can't be undid, Holmes Gillett.
I don't care what my mama says, I'm gonna have a baby.
The episode starts off with Stolas waking up in Blitzo's apartment, and overall, aside from the multiple horse references inside of Blitzo's house, the episode starts off moderately fine. Again, the point that they're trying to establish at the beginning is showcasing how truly privileged of an individual Stolas is by showcasing things such as him not being used to Blitzo's casual home-cooked breakfast, as well as new activities that he no longer as a privileged individual has to attend, such as going farmers market shopping, washing his clothes at a dryer, and purchasing new piece of clothes for himself. But that set aside, after Blitzo and Stolas have a brief moment of breakfast together, Stolas then, for some reason, finally remembers that he does indeed have a daughter.
Rats were always Via's favorite snack. Oh no! Where's your phone?
And again, I think this scene basically sums up how little Octavia's pretty much remained as an importance within Stolas' mind. Like, why the hell does it take you more than a day for you to remind yourself that you have a biological daughter that you were responsible for birthing? Which I'll give props to the writers. They finally are helping to effectively foreshadow the idea that Stolas has been neglecting Octavia, so good on them. But anyways, that set aside, the writers, after having Stolas not be able to contact his daughter due to the phone being taken away from his daughter Octavia, due to Stella realizing that Stolas is the one on the phone.
Sorry, sweetie. No talking to that deadbeat.
Which again, this phone scene doesn't make sense due to the simple comment being made before Stolas calls Octavia.
Where's your phone?
Why in the world would Stolas' profile picture show up on the phone? He asked Blitzo to borrow his phone. What? This is such a stupid error to make in a scene that would perfectly flow properly. How did this get past the writing team? Why did nobody in the department bring this up? But anyways, that set aside, after Stolas isn't able to gain contact with Octavia and gets rejected, Blitzo then decides to essentially take Stolas out on an adventure through, I guess, a normal low-class imp life, and I still don't understand why the IMP members or imps outside still despise Stolas so much. Did they not watch the damn court case? It was streamed live. He literally spared Blitzo's existence at the possible expense of his own inevitable death. Why are they treating him as some sort of shameful individual and not praising him for helping to save one of their kind's lives? He took a stand against lower class injustice. This is how y'all treat him? What? But anyways, that aside, they essentially have Stolas and Blitzo attend a clothes shop, and again, they have a very forced moment of Blitzo essentially stealing clothes for Stolas from a very expensive boutique shop. And again, it's very evidently just put in there just so that way they can have some justification for the flack that Stolas is getting. But again, this still wouldn't sort of explain why exactly the IMP people hate Stolas previously before he committed this act of criminal behavior. But anyways, that aside, they finally enter Blitzo's home again, and we essentially go from the transition of Blitzo at his workplace, and again, it's obvious what they're trying to do. They're trying to show how truly privileged Stolas is by essentially not even knowing what Sinsmas is, and showcasing something that's free is basically too out of touch for him.
Rich people don't have any fun, do they?
No, fun is free, but we can afford nice things.
And again, it's fine, but it's bro, we already got the point, at the start of the episode. Y'all don't need to drag this on. It's already established. Can we please move on to the plot already? But anyways, that aside, Blitzo then, I guess, has the creative idea to essentially take Stolas at work and become a secretary for his company. And overall, the scenes throughout Stolas' montage aren't really all that important. The only purpose that him essentially working there is meant to essentially have a incredibly painful conflict dilemma where they're essentially met with a client who essentially wants them to kill their essentially ex-husband who basically cheated on them and essentially completely claimed custody of the very kid she birthed. Which, I mean, the way they try and make her seem like she's so unreasonable or so demonized, a Karen. Like, again, it's really like not that like evil of a thing she's requesting. Like, her husband cheated on her, left her for another man, and when she died, immediately took all custody of the children and didn't let her side of the family see their kids ever. Like, not on Christmas, not on holidays, not on any of that. Like, if I was this woman's family, I will be upset. And again, this is coming from Blitzo, someone who quite literally had a mental breakdown because of the actual thought of possibly losing custody or the ability to see his own daughter or be forced to give her up.
I can take him, Mr. Ronnie.
Yeah, maybe you should adopt. No, you can't have her. She's mine and I love her. Don't you touch her, you little anal fissure.
So again, knowing how much of a traumatic effect this would have on Blitzo in past episodes, just the thought of possibly losing the ability to see his adopted daughter, Loona, ever again.
Oh, you think this is funny, assholes? She's not fit to be a mother. I saw her doing lines of coke in her dressing room.
Ronnie, I think maybe you should...
Ow! You can't have my baby, bitch! I'll never get rid of her!
It's very disingenuous for him to sit here and downplay the harm that it would have on this woman for not only being cheated, but also having her entire family be stripped of ever seeing her biological daughters ever again. Blitzo, fuck off with your bullshit double standard excuses. You're doing this because you're biased as fuck. And overall, the scene basically comes off as a really painful projection from Blitzo's part, and essentially them like painfully foreshadowing them essentially refusing to go through the job and refusing to kill off this like husband who is literally a infidel cheater, which again is blatantly obviously biased as fuck and a double standard because again, Blitzo had no problem killing the wife just because the first client he ordered said to do so. He had zero issue killing this woman in front of her husband, her son, and her daughter.
Just a happy mother who just got out of the hospital. And I got you, bitch.
Are we actually killing a family?
No, don't be a puss. We're just killing a mother. We're ruining a family.
He had no second thoughts about killing this innocent woman who was a victim of being two-timed. And not only that, when Moxie accidentally killed the other family members as well who weren't ordered to have hits on them, Blitzo didn't feel sorry, he didn't feel remorseful, he didn't mourn any of their deaths. He openly celebrated it and gave Moxie a celebration and invited the client over to the party. So again, it's blatantly biased as fuck. Like, bro, Blitzo has had no issue killing other people for less shittier transgressions. He had no issue killing the weeaboo girl as a 20-year-old for something cringy she did on the internet as a 13-year-old. You are deliberately doing this because you're biased as fuck and are setting standards for this couple that you would never for anybody else. You had no problem killing that woman in front of her kids. Not to mention that woman was still injured. This man has had no injuries. He's completely unscathed. This woman has had bandages over her head and was a victim of assault. But you didn't care. You killed her without a second thought because you're an unjust, double standard motherfucker. I do not blame Millie at all for getting mad in this situation because again, it's blatantly hypocritical of Blitzo and a blatant double standard from the guy. Millie may have celebrated the accidental death of the family as well, but at least she's consistent. At least she stands on business. Y'all flop the second it's somebody you like or somebody you're biased to. Anyways, that painful scene aside, we then finally cut to them being back in the real world again, and Stolas, as usual, has one of his stupid ideas come to his head.
I don't care what they fucking do. I'm seeing Octavia.
Ah yes, Stolas, please try to go see your daughter unannounced and trespass beyond private properties. They totally wouldn't put an immediate restraining order on your dumbass.
Dumbass motherfucker.
But anyways, that aside, they then essentially have Octavia come over to the business and essentially give Stolas his happy pills over, and overall, like, again, it's blatantly obvious so that way they can follow Stolas to Octavia's mansion and essentially set up the fight versus Andreophus. moments, and fight scenes are okay. Loona's transformation scene is pretty cool, but they don't really do too much with the other characters. It's just Millie becomes the gun-toting woman and Moxie becomes the like sword-wielding man. Like, that's literally it. But aside from that, like, I guess the most unbelievable thing about this fight was that somehow Andreophos didn't immediately die from getting literally bit in the throat in his windpipe by Loona. Like, what? Like, no, that's not how biology works. Like, if you get bit in the windpipe or your throat, you literally bleed to death or you asphyxiate because you can't breathe. Like, what the hell were these writers smoking? Like, do y'all not understand the basic concept of respiration and blood circulation? Like, come on now. But anyways, that aside, the fight essentially ends on a conclusion of Andreophos getting his ass kicked, and again, Octavia then of course transitions to her pretty godlike moment of essentially calling Stolas out for his mistreatment and neglect of her, as well as how much he's treated her as a simple token or like a trophy rather than an actual daughter.
Was I some fucking obligation? Is that why you didn't even hesitate when you got a chance to leave?
And again, what she's saying is absolutely right. Stolas literally broke up with Stella as soon as Octavia was of age. Better yet, the moment they got divorced, the first thing that Stolas immediately did, instead of trying to focus on his daughter's well-being or care for her, was trying to push his wife's buttons.
But tonight we're supposed to...
Darling, can we not talk about this now? Your mother's being a real bitch.
Well, how was I supposed to know you can spell? I've never seen you read.
And not only that, but when she went missing, someone else had to tell him that she was missing.
So your daughter came by, took your book, and teleported off to who the fuck knows where. We have no way of getting either of them back, okay? Okay, good talk, bye.
Not to mention, he's never apologized for all the other times he's neglected her either. He never really properly gave her an apology for essentially taking her to Lululand and making it all about him and sexually harassing one of his workers on the job. He never really truly apologized for that.
He's perfectly capable of defending himself. Did he honestly just bring Blitz along for the ride because he was thirsty?
Like, Octavia has given you so many chances, dude, and you've just sat there and spat in her face. I'm glad she put her foot down and told you that enough was enough. So, finally, Octavia essentially disowned Stolas, and all in all, it was a pretty good call out from Octavia. The only thing I really disagree with is the, like, happy pills thing. Like, I don't really think, like, using Stolas's, like, need for antidepressants was really a good gotcha against him. Like, the scene then ends with Stolas then deciding to shit on Blitzo instead of actually choosing to look openly at his mistakes.
The point is, I just want someone to care if I stay or go. I want someone to want me. You, why are you here? I don't want you here. Go home, please. Let me not feel so sad.
Because of course, when you think you've done something wrong, shift blame the other way. People can have depression for a multitude of reasons. Like, sure, the marriage was a big one, but people can be depressed for other reasons as well. Like, that part was pretty icky, but overall, it was a pretty good call out from Via. But anyways, that set aside, with Stolas essentially getting cut off from Via, they essentially then return to Blitzo's house again, and overall, the rest of the scenes are kind of tone deaf, especially when they have like Loona consistently try to host a party and try to like get Stolas to join games and stuff.
I'm gonna see if my friends can still come tonight.
As well as from the other people trying to consistently get at Stolas and consistently try to talk to him.
Hello! Get your ass in here! We're starting the game!
You want to try some of my home-baked Sinsmas cookies, Your Highness? Huh?
When in reality, like, bro, he just went through a pretty shocking and heartbreaking thing. Like, bro, just leave him alone. Like, and this is coming from someone like Loona who has had experience with this exact thing. When Blitzo was crashing and burning at Beelzebub's party, the first thing she did was successfully get him home safely and leave him alone so he could grieve and loathe himself to his own depressive mood.
You need to drink something other than Beezle juice. I'll be there, Dad. Now go the fuck to sleep, okay?
because that's what you do when someone goes through something depressive. You leave them alone and let them grieve on their own time. And like, I understand that this isn't necessarily Stolas' house, so he obviously doesn't have a say on the matter, but again, for people that are supposed to be so-called partners or friends or whatever you want to call them, this comes off as really tone deaf. Like, no, Stolas doesn't want other people at the home. He just went through something incredibly depressive. He wants to be alone and not nagged at. Like, what? But anyways, that set aside, we then cut to, the scene that everyone talks about, Millie conceiving, and let me just shut this shit down. No, Millie did not cheat. She was simply nervous about telling Moxie that she was conceiving a kid because, no shit, having a kid is a pretty big step and a pretty big challenge for all parents out there, regardless of their class or wealth or position. And also, too, she would be nervous about having this kid so early because guess what? Miscarriages happen because when you tell someone that you're having a kid too early and the baby miscarries, what happens is then you end up having to tell everyone who keeps questioning you about the child that, oh, I miscarried. Yeah, that's a pretty horrible thing to tell someone. So yeah, that's a pretty big cautionary thing that most parents want to take. Also, she of course was rightfully upset with Blitzo because she's seen the aftermath of how it's affected both of them. The funniest thing is, when both of them, Blitzo and Stolas, aren't interacting with each other, they're actually the most responsible people out there. When Blitzo isn't busy being nagged by Stolas, he's actually responsible and caring for his daughter. He takes her daughter to urgent healthcare appointments that she needs to go to.
Stolas, I can't today. All right, I'm sorry. I'm literally on my way to take Loona in for her very important Helby's SHOT. Takes years to book an appointment at this place. Took 5 for me to get this one, so, and she's been doing a lot of field work, so, she needs it.
And when it comes to Stolas, when Blitzo isn't there either, he's actually a productive worker. He's out there making deals with other demons.
Stolas! Hey there, birdie babe. Haven't seen you since you crashed my club. How you been?
Like, again, Stolas and Blitzo are perfectly capable of being successful individuals. It's just the fact that both of them just consistently put each other down without even realizing it. And overall, like, this episode and all the others are an amalgamation of this exact point. So yeah, no, Millie didn't cheat. Like, but overall, this scene does help to productively essentially boost Sallie Mae and Millie's bond with each other, as it is nice to see that Millie essentially sees more comfort in telling, her about this, potential child rather than her actual mother, someone who would actually have experience in birthing all of their children, Millie included. So that was a pretty heartwarming moment between the two of them. However, unfortunately, this heartwarming scene gets pretty diminished when they essentially cut to Loona essentially trying to get everyone's attention and trying to host a basic drink-off party. And overall, like, doing this in front of an openly depressed person, like, I get that Stolas is staying there free of charge, but again, people like this, everyone there has openly had histories of dealing with mental health episodes or depression, or have had to care for depressed people next to them. It comes off as really tasteless when they're out here just being like, guys, oh yeah, I know this other person at the party just got disowned by his daughter, but guys, let me not, give them the time to grieve by inviting more people to the party and trying to play board games and visibly trying to get their attention and trying to get them to drink and act up in front of this person. Like, again, this comes off as incredibly gross. But that aside, at least Stolas finally does the smartest thing throughout the entire episode.
Fucking Sinsmas, am I right?
Yeah, Stolas, go out to the balcony by yourself and let those feelings out. You got it, girl. But unfortunately, of course, we have Blitzo then go outside to the balcony with him. And again, they have a relatively wonky back and forth conversation between the both of them. And overall, like, Stolas, what he's saying is like, right.
You don't need to feel any guilt for my situation. It was my choice. It was all my choice. I caused all of this.
Which again is probably one of the most responsible things that Stolas has ever said in the entirety of the 2 seasons. And again, what he's saying here is absolutely correct. Like, Octavia isn't exactly in the wrong to never forgive you. Like, again, you openly chose to go to a party and apology tour where you were visibly just dunking on an ex who's already been kicked to the curb and not only hooked up with a one-night stand there, but it didn't ever think into your head, hey, maybe I should spend this gracious day with my my daughter. So again, ultimately all in all, everything Stolas is saying is correct, because you've neglected Octavia so much to the point where she's basically a second priority thing to you, rather than like the most important thing to you ever as a priority. So again, a nice self-deprecation scene from Stolas, but unfortunately this of course gets ruined by Blitzo giving him the most backhanded, stupidest advice I've ever heard from another individual.
You just gotta keep trying. You need to shut the fuck up!
No, Blitzo, shut the fuck up. Stolas should not just keep trying. If you are giving an apology towards a party that you've hurt, and they don't accept your apology, and your wish is to simply have you leave them alone, as that party is the person who's hurt, so they set the terms, you simply as the apologizing person respect their terms and don't see them again. This is terrible fucking advice. And again, all this shows is that essentially both parties are preventing each other from bettering one another by their repeated coddling and sugarcoating of each other's situations, when in reality, there's nothing to sugarcoat. You need to give Stolas the whole raw truth. And this is further problematically emphasized by having Stolas simply take Blitzo for his word automatically.
Yes, of course.
No, Stolas, Blitzo is not right here. Blitzo is comparing a situation with his sister Barbie.
You know, my twin sister, she hates me too for something that I did.
To your situation getting disowned by your daughter, as if they aren't two completely different situations. Blitzo was trying to stop his drug-addled sister who came out of rehab from relapsing and dealing drugs again. That is completely different from being disowned by your daughter who you repeatedly neglected. Again, these two are basically the ones who are putting each other back from betterment, because they keep coddling each other and they keep trying to aid one another when there's nothing for them to sugarcoat or band-aid. But that set aside, when things can't get any worse, we then get another incredibly tone-deaf situation from Loona.
Yeah, I need you to show up, Russ.
Shut the fuck up. You might not be so rude.
Loona, with all due respect, please shut the fuck up. Please stop trying to insistently haul at somebody and try to get them to join you or tell them to hang out when they are openly visibly mourning and simply want to be left alone. Loona, respect that, shut the fuck up and leave them alone. Play your board games by yourself and your own friends. Stop being a tone-deaf asshole. Again, this is insanely aggravating for someone who's openly familiarized themselves with dealing with people who are crashing out and going through depressive episodes. Again, Loona, just leave Stolas alone. Leave him alone like how you left Blitzo alone after you dragged him out of Beelzebub's party. Anyways, that painful dialogue from Loona aside, Stolas and Blitzo then essentially share a cringy dance moment, and overall, it's blatantly obvious that their relationship simply just isn't there anymore. There's not that spark anymore because Stolas simply just wants to be left alone, but Blitzo incessantly keeps poking the bear repeatedly and trying to dance with Stolas or kiss Stolas or do all these things that he doesn't want to do right now, and it's like, just leave him alone and let him grieve on his own time. He's not ready to be out there and be all sociable. He just got disowned by his own biological daughter. And all in all, the death stare from Stolas during the hug moment perfectly symbolizes the imbalancedness within their relationship, as Blitzo on the other hand is like wanting things to continue, but Stolas on the other hand simply wants to distance himself from him and simply break things off from a relationship standpoint because he doesn't want this to continue. He realizes it's not proper, it's not right. He's not able to confidently verbalize it towards Blitzo when he should be. And ultimately, all in all, this scene concluding on that is a perfect symbolization of how the relationship isn't reciprocatory anymore and there isn't a spark. It's starting to feel like a chore rather than an actual relationship. But anyways, that aside, let's establish my final thoughts.
Walking in a winter wonderland.
All in all, this episode was kind of a mess. Like, the moments where Octavia kind of grilled Stolas on his neglectful and rather mistreatment towards her were pretty solid, but the rest of it was kind of just like infuriating to listen to. It was like the episode kept trying to convince you that Stolas and Blitzo can rekindle their relationship and be together when actively through throughout it. Both of them were giving each other the most destructible advice ever, and were making double standards and breaking consistencies that they refused to break or would never give towards others, but would set standards for certain situations that they would never give anyone else, as well as giving completely destructive and sugarcoating advice towards others rather than simply telling them the cold and honest truth, and trying to compare situations to each other as if they're even remotely connected. And what was worse was that I actively saw both partners get manipulated by this gaslighting verbiage. And the ending of this episode didn't help with that either. Like, Stolas never got the time to properly heal from his devastating disownment from his own daughter. Like, regardless of whether he was freeloading off of the house in the property by staying there free of charge, it's still kind of icky and distasteful that you would simply take this visible person who needs to heal and then put them in a situation where they immediately have to interact with people and get interrupted and not be able to properly get their grieving thoughts straight. It's just completely ridiculous. So overall, this episode like somewhat did a really good job at portraying just how unbalanced Stolas and Blitzo are, not just as partners but even together, like as a friendship type dilemma. And I think this episode kind of portrayed that perfectly. And this is why I don't understand when people say like, oh, this episode proves that they want to be together. Like, no, all this shows is that they have more reasons to distance themselves from one another. They are stunting each other's potential growth. And ultimately, all in all, I think for future episodes, I think what they should do is have Blitzo try and get Stolas out of his house and try to get him, you know, his own working job, and also so that way he can pay rent and live on his own. Because him being within that house simply just isn't a healthy ecosystem for him anymore. Because he'll never really learn how to be properly responsible and properly independent for himself. Like, again, this is like basically holding him back from his full potential. I also think that Stolas, with addition to getting a job and also his own household, should also manage to get his own mental health treatment or go to a mental health institution. Because while I don't necessarily want to say that he's addicted to his happy pills, I do think he should receive treatment for his depression or find some way to get mental health for it, in the same way that Barbie was receiving mental health treatment for her own addiction problems as well. As ultimately, while I don't think Stolas is by any means addicted to his happy pills, I think he should find a way to successfully recover and find a way to better his depression and not need the pills as much. So ultimately, all in all, like a nice scene from Millie and Sallie Mae, but the episode was really like, that's the most props I can give. So thank you guys for watching this review. Thanks to everybody that stayed here from 2024. I hope to put out consistent bangers like this in the new 2025. So please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below for more bangers coming out this year. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.